What's up, guys, and welcome back to Rising Thrills, your #1 source for Pennsylvania, New Jersey, and Maryland roller coaster content. And in this video on day 28 of Daily Roller Coaster Reviews, I'll be reviewing Steel Force at Dorney Park in Dorney, Pennsylvania. In 1997, Dorney Park and Wildwater Kingdom in Allentown, Pennsylvania opened Steel Force, which is a Morgan manufacturing hypercoaster. Steel Force has a length of 5,600 feet, a height of 200 feet, a drop of 205 feet, a top speed of 70 miles per hour, and a cost of $10 million and 1,700 riders per hour. Steel Force starts out with you dipping down a little bit before you go through a straight track section, before you turn to the left, and then you start up the lift hill. Once you get to the top of the lift hill, then you start slowly down the drop. Then you speed up down the drop and you go through a tunnel at the valley. After you go through the valley, then you go through a airtime hill. And then after you go through that airtime hill, then you come up through another airtime hill. After you go through that airtime hill, then you turn to the right and you start going through a helix. This is a double helix. After you go through the double helix, you turn to the left, and then you come up onto the mid-course brake run. After you drop off of the mid-course brake run, then you go through a smaller airtime hill, and then you go through the tunnel, and after you go through the tunnel, then you go through another small airtime hill, and then another small airtime hill, and then another even smaller airtime hill, and then you pop up into the end of the ride, and then you turn to the right, and then you come into the first trim brake run before you turn to the right and you come into the end brake run. Once you do that, then you pull into the station and the ride is over. So this ride, it's supposed to, be an airtime focused roller coaster. But towards the beginning of the ride, the first big airtime hills, you don't get a ton of airtime. You don't really start getting the airtime until later on in the ride, with those smaller airtime hills, because, they're smaller and you're not necessarily going faster, but, they're smaller, so you're going faster at the top of them than at the top of the big airtime hills. So you get a good amount of airtime when you go through them. The first few airtime hills, you do get a little airtime, but not a ton. But those airtime hills towards the end, you really get a lot of airtime, like pretty surprising amount. And, the restraints do help a little bit. But, it's overall a fun ride. Of course, it could be better, but I definitely think it is an underrated ride. I definitely really enjoy it. It's one of my personal favorite coasters. Definitely a great coaster. It's definitely a underrated coaster, like I said. But it is an older ride, and it definitely could be a little longer. But overall, it's a good ride, and like I said, it's a bit underrated, but, it could do some more things, than just airtime hills, and the airtime hills towards the beginning, they don't really do that much. Then you go through the helix. Yeah, it doesn't do a ton, but, overall, the ride, it's not the best ride, of course. It is a Morgan Hyper, so it's not like, Sky Rush or anything, but, it does deliver some good, flow-jector airtime. Not quite ejector airtime, but more flow-jector airtime. But overall, it is a fun ride, and I definitely enjoy it. Of course, it is an airtime-centric ride. That's what it's supposed to do. Like I said, could do some more things, but, really, for when it was built, it's good enough, in my opinion. But for my final score for Steel Force at Dorney Park in Allentown, Pennsylvania, I'll be giving it an 8 out of 10. A lot of people probably would give it a worse score than that, but I definitely enjoy this ride. It's definitely an underrated ride. But, of course, that's just my opinion, and you know, definitely consult other people's opinions. But it's definitely, these Morgan hypercoasters are definitely underrated hypercoasters. You know, Mamba and I think Wild Thing or something are also Morgan hypers, and they're both in the Cedar Fair chain. But overall, Steel Force is a good ride, and for my final score for Steel Force at Dorney Park in Allentown, Pennsylvania, I'll be giving it an 8 out of 10. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I hope to see you tomorrow. Goodbye.